Welcome to the Kraken. Today we're asking, who the hell is Paul Manafort? Oh! Paul Manafort was chairman of Donald Trump's campaign during the summer, primarily during the Republican National Convention. Now at the time, all I knew about the guy was that he used to work for the deposed dictator of the Ukraine, and that he was apparently a pretty shady dude. And that was all I knew about Paul, until I got a call from my girlfriend. Yes, her. Yes, you should be jealous. And she told me that there's this guy, Paul, on television, just giving bizarre answers about the Russians. It was weird. I had to turn it on. I had to watch. And while bizarre, I didn't really think much of it. However, now that phone call feels very important to me because Paul Manafort, God, every time, is in the news again because of his connections with this dictator. So first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Paul, and then we'll take a look at how this story develops. Paul worked with a law group known as Black, Manafort, and Stone, who represented a who's who of the world's most terrible dictators, one of whom is named Yanukovych. This guy's got more grease slathered all over him than the McDonald's CBO. Yanukovych was dictator of the Ukraine until he was deposed. I can recall reading a story about when Ukrainian rebels got into his house and discovered a set of bells on his bedside table. It was later revealed that bell number 1 is rung to bring food, and bell number 2 is rung to bring sex. Toby, why aren't we dictators? Why aren't we dictators? At this time, I can recall thinking, yeah, it's a little bit sketchy that this guy's been hired as campaign manager, but given who he was replacing, I wasn't surprised. I'd like you to take a look at this clip of White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer answering a question about Michael Flynn and managing to make it about Paul Manafort as well. He didn't show up this time. Oh!
Michael Flynn's name came up at the time, having not registered as a foreign agent. There was a lot of focus on the vetting process that goes into individuals. Back then you said, we trust people to fill out the appropriate forms that they need to.
If somebody fills out a form here, an SF-86, their security clearance form, or another employment document, and lies on that form or misleads, then they're going to face the penalty of law on that. That's a big difference between saying when someone was hired on a campaign or another entity that they should disclose everything in their past, whether or not they, who their clients were, what. But again, I mean, if someone presented a resume and it was faulty, sure, I think that if that was people write things, they have jobs, they describe themselves in certain ways, and to dredge up someone's work from a decade ago, it's not that Paul wasn't truthful, just to be clear, you're trying to conflate something that's not there. You're trying to make the accusation that somehow he was dishonest or distruthful. No, you are.
I'm not asking about Paul Manafort.
Who are you asking about?
Sean, would then candidate Donald Trump have hired Paul Manafort to such an important and prominent position in his campaign if he had known that he had had a $10 million contract with somebody so close to Vladimir Putin to, quote, greatly benefit the Putin government? So
again, you're basically saying, hey, the work that he did, he had a client a decade ago. Would he have? I don't know the answer to that.
$10 million to promote the interests of Vladimir Putin.
I don't. The answer to your question, I don't know. To look back right now and to say, if we knew now what we know then, would we have done things different? I don't know. That's a question that the president would have to weigh at the time.
Well, he definitely didn't know.
No.
You're saying he didn't know.
No, he did not know. Of course not.
He disclosed that if he didn't
disclosed
work for
what?
So if you notice, Sean Spicer is claiming that there's no way Donald Trump could have known literally the only thing I knew about Paul Manafort at the time that he hired him, when he was hiring him to run his campaign. But look, guys, it's not that bad. Trump's campaign barely had any contact with the Russians. It was just Flynn, Sessions, Page, Gordon, and Kushner. As for the rest of the law group, you may be asking, what happened to the boys? What did they get up to? Well, Charlie Black actually managed Mitt Romney's campaign for president. That's great. And Roger Stone has been up to some very interesting things in social media lately. He's acted as a kind of hanger-on, a sort of surrogate for the Trump campaign, and he's made some very interesting statements that I'm sure by now you're aware of. The most important thing to do with Stone, Trump, Manafort connection is the fact that Stone, we know for a fact, because he's admitted it and showed pictures, has been in contact with Russian hacker Guccifer 2.0, actually sending him this message where he calls him great guy. I really hope Guccifer 2.0 never sees this video, because I fully believe that he is capable of hacking into it and changing all of my graphics or doing all manner of Just this week, FBI Director Comey has confirmed that there is an investigation going on into the Trump campaign's connections to Russia. We know that Michael Flynn has been let go of his job because of conversations he had with the Russians. Jeff Sessions might actually be facing perjury charges because it looks like there was actually a third conversation he had with the Russians, so that's great. Which brings us full circle in this FBI investigation to the new information that it may have revealed about Paul Manafort. The revelations in question are about documents that at the time I'm making this video have not been authenticated. I will be providing links to reports, and I'm going to keep the description up to date on this. If this story develops in a large way, I'm going to come back to it, but right now I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew who this guy was and why you were going to be hearing so much about him in the coming days. But I will say something that we know for a fact, is that we are once again faced with the question: is the Trump administration incompetent or sinister? Did they know what they were doing when they put people like Mike Flynn and Paul Manafort into positions of power during the course of the campaign and after the campaign? Or did they just simply not care about their background? Because this stuff was not hard for me to find. It may have been difficult for them to find before the reporters came out with it, but you'd think once you heard about it, maybe you would take action. Maybe you would investigate. Maybe you would do something about it. We here at The Kraken thank you for joining us. I'm going to leave you with some video of the Trump administration playing 4D chess. I've decided to use these end panels as a means for me to directly communicate to my audience. I appreciate you guys very much, and I haven't really found a good way to express that without stepping on the message for the video. So after the credit scenes like this one are going to be playing in almost all of my videos in the future. Unfortunately, I've used up all the time that I'm going to budget for this portion, so I'm going to have to leave you here.